What's going on, my friends? I hope you're well. Sometimes I get something on my mind, I jump on one to talk about it. And I think a lot when I drive, so I'm driving. And I have my eye on the road, so don't worry about that. I'm watching the road, trust me. But something has come to mind, and I've talked about this in the past a little bit, but I want to reiterate it, is that one thing that will help you in music licensing and doing music for film and TV is that be consistent, I know people kind of frown on the work hard kind of thing and
approaching a railroad crossing.
Kind of, well, if I want to do that, I'll just go get a job. I'm like, well, if you're doing what you love and have a passion for in life, you never really work hard, but you're working hard. Basically, you're working hard at what you love to do. But sometimes, you get to a point where you want to get more creative and you want to branch out and you want to maybe collaborate with people. And I think one of the biggest things I can tell you is this, is when you're looking for somebody to collaborate with, and I've gone through this frustration before with people, where you're going to know pretty quick if you stop paying attention whether they're willing to put in the effort to do it or whether they care or not. Don't waste a lot of time on people that that want to make excuses and just don't want to put in the time and the effort on it, I'll give you one example. You get with somebody who they say they want to learn about that end of the business and they're working with artists. Let's say they're just recording hip hop people and they doing all that and producing and on that side of it, but they want to know more about the music licensing for film and TV, but they're not willing to learn about it. They're not willing to learn how to compose for that, which is different than writing for the masses, by the way. I've mentioned that a million times. And you get with them a couple of times in person, y'all start working on some stuff, they put in pretty good ideas, and then you hadn't heard from them in a bit, and you're like, hey man, I'm looking to do another album of this, maybe a hybrid, I want to do some stuff, what's your take on it? And he's like, oh well, that's great, man, I think it's a great idea. And they tell you, well, you start it and get it back to me. And if it's one of those type of people that, well, you start it, like they're quick to say that, they're not the type that'll say, well, how do you want to do it? You want me to start it, or you want it, or do you want to get together and do it? Or it's people that you can tell if they're willing to put in the time and that they care. You get people like that, they're probably not going to work out to collaborate with, and they're probably not going to work out for somebody you really want to work with in most cases, and probably anything that you do with the music business especially. So next thing I want to talk about real quick is if you're going to collaborate with people, be careful, please, who you collaborate with. And based on my experience, I've kind of burnt on this in the past, and I've learned from it, is that know who you're collaborating with, and it's hard, man. Just be careful when you get in these groups on the internet and these forums and stuff like that, and people start hitting you up to collaborate and you don't know them. Be very, very careful and try to vet them as much as possible, because you don't know what they're doing on the other side, and it's hard. It's hard for me to collaborate with people because of that anymore, and for good reason. I'm cautious, man, because that liability is on me just as well as it is them. And there's a lot of libraries, a lot of people in this industry, but people talking, it makes it a small industry because word of mouth gets out quick. And the one place I've talked about it gets out
approaching a railroad crossing
is the Production Music Conference each year, and I go. Someone's always talking about something that has their ear to the ground, and you hear about, you don't say names, but you hear about scenarios and things that happen in panels and stuff like that. You learn about what's going on in the industry, just a lot of things. Be careful. Please vet these people. Don't get in a situation where you got somebody who's might be taking your music and that you've done, and they may say, hey, send the stems and these mixes, we're going to sign to a publisher 50-50, and then they take your stems, mix them out, and they run them to another library, change the names 100% under their name. Now, it'd be hard to do because these days, with fingerprint technology and these aggregates that they're listening for this stuff. And I will tell you in your mind, do not ever do that. If you've done that, clean that, fix that mess, and do it now, because it will get you in so much legal trouble. I will tell you a scenario of something that happened that I've heard. A guy that was doing that, it got back to the PRO, which was BMI, and they were signing the same tracks to different libraries, changing the names under their name, and the music was co-written by someone else under another library. They'll remove those registrations because, one, if they can't prove who actually wrote that track specifically, no one's going to get paid. But if it's one of those situations where they get complaints that stuff's happening, they'll remove those registrations, and more than likely they'll remove every registration that you've got. And not only would they do that, this individual would happen to, they reported it to the other PROs and said, hey, this individual is doing this, just beware. Another thing that individual was doing was going on, getting different accounts for the PRO under different names, using different social security numbers. Now, regardless of whether somebody told you could do that or not, you could get into legal trouble where you could get arrested for identity theft until they prove that someone said, hey, listen, I told them they could do it. You would still be going through that until the burden of proof hit. You don't want to go through that. But still, even if they said that, you just ruined your career because you're never going to get an account with any of these PROs again. And once all your registrations are removed and they contact these libraries who registered the stuff that you put it with, you're blackballed from every one of those libraries. You just burnt bridges for however many libraries you're with. Not only does that happen, but word of mouth gets out, like I just said a minute ago, to where no one wants to work with you again. And you have to be careful. I've always said you can end your career quicker than you get it started in this business if you don't know what you're doing or understand the business, or if you're being unethical. Please be careful on that. That's just a side note of just being careful of who, excuse my hand on that, of who you collaborate with, because you don't know. Just know. I mean, I collaborate with a guy in Mexico City. I know he does the work. I've edited him. He's a great composer. He's a great talent. I haven't talked to him in a while. He's kind of in a doldrum where he thinks AI is going to take over, and I keep telling him, dude, keep writing music. Don't do that. Keep plugging away. AI is learning from humans. There will always be a need for human music. Always from human beings. Don't ever think that. What do you think AI is learning it from? They're learning it from us. We created the computers, and we can unplug them at any time. Right now, AI is nowhere near of a threat because it's already in legal trouble. Big time. There's lawsuits already out there. So rest assured, I feel sure in the evolution of time that things will be in place to protect us. And there will be ways to make money from AI. There already is. I can tell you right now that I had a library, and I don't know if I mentioned this. I can't mention the library, but I have a library that's partnered with somebody that's doing AI generative stuff, and what generative stuff, which I've talked about, and I've had somebody argue with me about this. I know for a fact that they can train that AI where they know what music it picked from, and each piece of music that AI pulled from gets a cut. That artist gets a cut from that AI generative music. So in other words, what this company is going to be doing is taking the music that's in that catalog specifically, and it's going to generate AI music on the pieces of music in that catalog. So if it pulls one of my pieces, I get a cut of that writer's on what it pulled from. The computer, the program will know which music it pulled from, like a collaborative effort. So trust me when I tell you there's going to be avenues to make money with AI here soon, you know. But never quit making music. Don't let AI intimidate you like that, because it's not going to do it. It just isn't going to do it. But I wanted to get on and just say, listen, it was just on my mind because I was listening to something a little while ago. It just made me get on and say, just be careful of who you're working with, and don't get with somebody who just doesn't want to waste time with somebody who just doesn't want to put the work in, doesn't understand. You know, I work a lot on my music, and I still feel like I'm sometimes like I make too many excuses, or I don't do what I should, or, you know, I get it. Some people are just neurotic about, oh, why take a break, you know. I'm the firm believer in you need to take a brain break, an ear break from your music sometimes. I just worked on a piece of music a little bit ago, and I had to put it down. I got a good start. I got a good foundation and everything before I lay any more added leads to it and finish it up and stuff and get it sequenced. I just needed to let that progression that I wrote sink in a little bit, you know, because I've had tracks that start off and I'm like, this is not going to cut it, man. It just isn't. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But then I start adding stuff to it. I take a break from it a little bit, go do something else, and I come back to it with a fresh perspective. Not a week, but, a few hours or so. There's nothing wrong with that. And I start plugging away and I start realizing this is coming together pretty good, And that's a part of separating music that you're writing to the masses from within here and hit music for Spotify versus to film and TV. You have to look at it in a different way. It may not sound like it's some hit instrumental track or a hit song, but that track is going to fit a production somewhere, whether it be needle dropped or specifically needed for a commercial or project that's, deeply needed, deeply rooted to fit the emotion of that, whether it be an ad or a movie or a scene in a TV show. A lot of the stuff I do is needle dropped in. So in other words, they've already pulled in a pile of music and they don't have a lot of time to analyze it. They're going to know within the first 15 to 30 seconds where that track is going to work. That's what I've always said. The first 15 to 30 seconds is the most important part of your track. But you still need to give variety, because what they pull from that, and they're going to go look and they're going to see if there is variety, there is change, and they're going to listen to that ending. Make sure you have a button or a stinger ending that has a decay. Sometimes you look at one that has a fade of that decay on the stinger ending, or a button where it stops. Never fade that stuff out like they used to do in the 80s, man. Some of these songs you'd be going on and you always wonder, well, how did it end? Well, go see them live. That doesn't fly anymore. You'll see a lot of the popular music artists that they're not ending their tracks like that anymore, because they know that their tracks are not only being Spotified and on radio, but they're being used in TV and media as well. So the rules apply to them as well, folks. I'm just telling you. So, but be thinking about that. There's nothing wrong with collaborating. Don't take what I'm saying as like it should deter you from collaborating with people. It's a good thing to do. I still enjoy doing it, and I'm looking for people to collaborate with that I can trust. I don't want to get deep into why, but I've had situations where it's just hard for me to trust until I know that person. And the good thing about collaborating is it keeps you productive, man. You learn things from it, but also the two of you can get each other into different libraries you weren't in, and you can build new relationships and do different things. So it's not a competition thing, folks, by any standard. Don't treat it as such. Just look at it as it broadens you and whoever you're collaborating with's music career. So just look at it that way, and you can get a lot out of it, I promise you. But just be careful and be cautious. Don't be a jerk about it, but just vet who you're with. If you know somebody that knows them, you can vet them. That's important. But I'll tell you another thing you can do, and I've mentioned this before, is you've got their writer name, or maybe one library they're with. If you can find their name, pick up on their composer name with the PRO. If they're with BMI, go look at their repertoire on BMI or ASCAP. I know there's one of the PROs that won't let you see the repertoire, and I'm not sure if it's CSAC or SOCAN or something. I can't remember, but I know BMI and ASCAP, you can look at a composer's repertoire. You can look everything that they're signed with that's been registered. Go look at some of the writers they're writing with, and find those people. Go to the libraries they're with if the catalog is public, and listen to their stuff. I will say one word of caution is if you have a composer that hits you up wanting to collaborate and everything in their repertoire has a co-writer, beware. And I know that sounds odd, but you need to beware. If they haven't written anything themselves, or very little of it, whatever they've written themselves, those titles and libraries with, go listen to what they've written by themselves and compare that to what they've collaborated with. And you might get an idea that they didn't do that music. They just got them into a library, wanted half the writers, but they're not much of a composer, or all they're looking to do is just take half somebody's writers and get it in the library, play broker, but yet make people think they're a composer. just beware. You know, people like that. It's if they're upfront, say, hey, I'm a broker. I just can get you in the libraries. You know, if you give me 30% of writers, I can get your album in this library. Maybe get you a contract, build a relationship. That's fine. But my whole point is that you don't really need somebody to do that for you. You need to learn the business and do it yourself. So I've been through these scenarios where I just, after a couple of tracks, I said, I don't need somebody to do that. I need somebody to collaborate with. I can do that myself. They get all pissed or something. I don't care, you know. The thing is I'm my own composer. I can get in the libraries on my own. If the library wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be. You know, you keep moving forward. You find the relationships and you find the right libraries. But just be careful in those things, guys. Please do. I wanted to jump on and kind of chat a moment on that and pass that on. I haven't talked about that in a while, but just be careful. And keep plugging away, my friends. Don't give up.